Imagine being in charge of a healthcare system, then having to coordinate a vaccine megasite. That is what our guest today has been doing for the past year. Hello and welcome to Living Well with Robin Stoloff, empowering you to live a healthier life. So excited to welcome Lori Herndon, President and CEO of AtlantiCare. Lori, you haven't been very busy lately, right?
Just a little.
Not doing much. I mean, it is incredible what you've had to go through. And I want to talk vaccines and I want to talk Megasite and the COVID, but I also want to hear more about your background. You have such an interesting story. You started as a critical care nurse at AtlantiCare
Mhm.
back in the 80s, which is incredible. And here you are, president and CEO today. So from then to now, talk to us about your journey.
Well, being a nurse is a great skill set for a variety of different challenges. So, the experiences that I had as a staff nurse have stayed with me all these years. You have to be organized, you have to be able to communicate, you have to be able to listen. All of those skills and many, many more have had, huge impacts on many of the roles that I've had over the years. But yeah,
Yes.
I didn't grow up here, but I have been in South Jersey. It'll be 38 years next week since I moved here as a young woman, and started as a staff nurse in the ICU in the city campus. And I no kids, no husband, just here I am, and wasn't really sure how long I would be staying, but fell in love with the area, fell in love with the organization, and here I am all these years later.
Boy, I can certainly relate to that. I've been here about the same amount of time and same thing. No
Yes.
kids, no husband, now kids and husband. So you moved up along the ranks. Did you ever envision that for yourself?
No. The thing that I really enjoyed most about healthcare and my career path is that I always liked to, try and make a difference. Try and, when there was a challenge, I wasn't the person. I might complain, but then I'd be like, well, what are we going to do to fix it? What can
Hmm.
we do to make things better? So, and I volunteered for a variety of different roles. I have I get bored a little easy, so I like the challenge. I like new things, and my timing was perfect. I just, I showed up at a time when there was a lot changing in healthcare and a lot changing at AtlantiCare, and was able to just, take advantage of a variety of different opportunities. My education was really important. AtlantiCare supported that. And, I joined the organization. There's 3 different ways to become a registered nurse. And I'm a old school diploma grad, which there's hardly any of those programs left, but I had very few college credits after many years of study. So I'm a proud graduate of Stockton University, but it took me almost 10 years to get my bachelor's degree. And then I got a master's degree in business after that. So I was in school, working full time and going to school part time for 12 years.
That's
So
incredible.
when people say that's hard, I go, yeah, it is, but it's part of it. It's
And
part of
is
what
this
you
why
need
you
to
had
do.
a family as well?
I do. I have 2 sons, both now married, and one's 32 and 30. But when I joined AtlantiCare, there were, no children with me, and my husband, we live in Brigantine, ended up moving there, renting there, and ultimately stayed there. But this was such a great place to raise the boys,
Oh,
and
absolutely is.
just the working mom thing. And I don't
Was
have
that tough
no
juggling?
family here, so
Yeah.
I had it as tough as it can be at times, and had to make some tough decisions at lots of different moments, but did the best we could.
Was it
And
tough to juggle the
it's
family
tough to
and work?
juggle.
Yeah.
Robin, it's tough.
Yes. Yes, it is.
My
It
advice
definitely
would
is.
be is, I've always felt I was authentic about the fact that, when I needed to go and be with the kids, I needed to go. But, I look back now and wish at times I would have, been there more. Because, as they
Hmm.
grow up, so your kids, they grow up so fast before it seems like there were days where I didn't think, I was like, this is never
Is
going
this
to
going
end.
to end?
And then it does. And it's like, how did
Yes.
that go so fast? Just
Yeah,
flew
it
by.
is. It's a blink of an eye, and it is true. And I don't think, many women look back without some regrets about not spending as much time as they could with their kids. But we all do juggle, and I think the kids understand. And I think it sets a good example for them. And you've also set a good example for women in business and in the healthcare industry. I looked it up, and there's only about 13% of women CEOs of
Yeah.
healthcare systems, and that's incredible. We need to add a few more to that.
Well, here in South Jersey, we have a few, and that number is increasing. So I'd
Hmm.
like to think that, there's open-mindedness to the fact that women are very capable of leading in a lot of different roles. And of course, as you know, we have many female executives at AtlantiCare as well, very accomplished individuals. And, I believe that the right person should get the job, regardless of diversity or age or gender. And, we want to make sure that we hire the best people.
Absolutely, and you do. And I know a lot of those women, and they are the best in their field. So kudos to you for doing that. So let's talk about the pandemic. I mean, this is, you have a lot of duties, but this has had to be, obviously the main thing that you've been working on for the past year. When this first happened, what went through your mind? What did you do?
Well, we were watching it. I mean, you may not believe this, but we actually had our first pandemic meeting probably end of January. We actually prepare and actually have an organized plan to manage through something like this. Of course, it was on the shelf, but we,
Hmm.
pulled it out, and all healthcare systems, have to have certain, if you will, preparedness, models and things in place. So we began digging through all of that. I think as a clinician, I've been through a lot of other horrible things, AIDS being one of them.
Hmm.
And, I think many of us, myself included, were, I knew it was serious, but I just, it was hard for me to get my head around that it was going to go on and on and on. And I guess that was
Yes.
probably the thing that was the most troubling and the most challenge for me personally is it's like we have a snowstorm, we have hurricanes, like we gear up, we get through stuff. It's more of in shorter snaps of time, but it just, it got really difficult. And I actually felt like I watched the virus come down the parkway, because we were on the phone with some of our colleagues in North Jersey who I will be forever, just admire, and just what they went through. That was hard. They went through
Hmm.
horrible things. It ramped up so dramatically quickly that they couldn't handle it. And,
Yeah.
we didn't have that experience. The second surge was really tough, a lot tougher for us than the first one.
Yes.
But, it was, I still, it's like when you think about, I'm sure everybody, the same thing, like that year has just flown by, and
Hmm.
all the things that we had to deal with, we never closed. I mean, I think that's one of the things that was interesting and complicated is, we didn't have a choice. We just had to keep going. And of course, as a scientist at heart, most of us in healthcare, like, we don't like this ambiguity. We don't like that it's, we're going to do this, and then 3 days later, no, you shouldn't have done that. You
Mm-mm.
need to
Yeah.
change it. And,
Yeah.
I
It
just
makes it
want to
hard to
keep
plan. It really
keep
does.
saying out loud, which is really hard for people to understand. This is like, nobody has ever lived through this before. And I think there was some of the challenge was we were changing direction, and people then made that mean that this was, discrediting that it was real, and that it wasn't as, I don't know, that we don't know what we're doing, but it was so new. And
Oh,
I
there's
felt
no
so
playbook for
personally,
this.
pardon me?
There really isn't. How do you know? There's no playbook. You have
Yeah,
to figure it
well,
out
and
as you go.
when everything shut down, in some ways that had tons of implications for our organization. We have almost 6,000 employees spread over 100 sites, 5 different counties. How did we manage that? What do we do? Then we had then
Hmm.
we were losing the revenue. Here we are, we're still open. We're still having to take care of everybody who comes
Sure.
in. And just the struggles with that was unbelievable. Testing, oh, all the things we went through just to get, because we didn't
Yes.
have any testing. And
Hmm.
that was the hardest part, because we didn't know. I mean, we had to treat people. If we thought you had COVID, you were COVID, whether you had a test or not in the early days. And of
Yes.
course, we just went through so many different phases of challenges, and I can't
How do
even,
you
when
handle
I,
that emotionally? I mean, do you go home and just, want to just kind of pull your hair out, or do you just take it day by day?
I think, back to my nursing training, it was like having the sickest patient in the hospital every day. Like, you just have to
Yes.
focus on what's in front of you and keep your head, just keep moving
Hmm.
forward. And
Hmm.
as I mentioned, we have some incredibly talented people who work here. So we leaned on each other, and we had a lot of group thinks. We had a lot of discussions. We needed to hear lots of voices. And we just had to keep making decisions. And we learned, based on obviously watching the virus come down the parkway, we had some advantages that our Northern Jersey
Hmm.
hospitals and the New York hospitals didn't have. And so we had some time to gear up a little bit based on some of the things that we were learning. But, taking care of your first COVID patient and having your first COVID patient die and having your first employee, have COVID, and what do you do? Just thousands of things that we needed to sort out to be able to continue to move forward. And then I felt really personally responsible that we need to help the community. And
Hmm.
I hope people who, have watched what we've done this past year we stepped up. We did anybody who called and needed help, anybody who needed advice. We weren't the experts, but we were becoming the expert because like I said, we never had closed. So it was just an ongoing journey that just kept
That's
on giving.
yeah. Yes, and hopefully we're towards the end of this. Let's bring it to present day and the Vaccine Megasite. I had my first shot, and I have to compliment you because I didn't know what to expect, and I just thought it was run so smoothly. With the National Guard there, you check in, you go in line. There's a ton of people giving the vaccine. You wait your 15 minutes to make sure you're okay, and you leave. And it was just a seamless, unbelievable experience. I really was impressed by it, and I cannot imagine what it took to get to that point. How did you even begin to plan for that?
Well, we weren't alone in this, but one of the things that we did have a choice, and sadly, when we had to make the decision about whether we were going to be all in on the mega site, we were having our surge, where we hit the largest number of admitted COVID patients in this experience was in early January, February, and we weren't. It wasn't that we had lost control. Everything was always under control, but I was starting, like, our staff were tired. Like, it was just too many. We had too
Yeah,
many sick COVID patients for what how we needed to operate. So that was at the time where we had to make the decision. And I'll never forget the discussion that our senior team had, and just coming to the conclusion that we had run the clinics here in the hospital for our staff and for the first responders, so we had worked out a lot of those processes. So we had a little confidence but that was such a small scale. I mean, we were doing hundreds of people a day, not thousands of people.
yes,
But when we
yes,
made that decision, there was a tremendous amount of support from both the state and the federal government and the state police and the county. And our clinical team that is we're responsible for the clinical side of the operation, and pretty much we're, at the end of the day, we're responsible for all of it, but there's a lot of moving pieces that kind of make it all work. But they talk about Six Sigma, green belts. I mean, we had a lot of process improvement technology in front of us to just keep trying to make the system work better and more seamlessly. And I was over there yesterday. We hit 4,326 people we vaccinated yesterday, and we're up
that's
to, we have
incredible.
40. I don't know when you were there, but I mean, there's 40 different vaccination site people, and
It
it's
was
it's an
incredible. It
operation.
was
The
incredible.
average
And how
yesterday
many
when I
have you
was
done total?
uh, I think it's close to 170,000 right now. If you
That's
add up what we've been doing as like a healthcare organization, because we did
hmm.
get a few more doses. So we were doing some other sites. We've been active in the community, doing some,
Yes.
those high risk patients who, we need to go to them and make sure we can support them in getting vaccinated. So yeah, it's been an unusual and very challenging, but very rewarding. I think you probably felt the vibe, right? People were excited.
Absolutely.
They were
Yes.
upbeat. They were anxious. I mean, there's always the
Yes.
anxiousness, and not
Hmm.
everybody's been to the convention center. People worry about the parking, but once you're kind of in there, you
It
get
was
the vibe
it
that
was
people
nothing. Yeah. It was
they're
great.
happy, they're excited. I mean, people cry from relief. They cry for
Oh,
their lost loved
yes.
ones. I mean, it's an emotional
It is
place.
emotional. And it was surprising to me. I felt a sense of relief, a sense of I haven't seen my parents in such a long time. They're in their 80s, and I'm doing this because I want to be healthy, but I really want to see my parents. I am
Yeah,
motivated. I want to hug my mom. I want to hug
yeah.
my dad, and I just miss them. And we're very close Italian family. We see each other all the time. And it's just been really, I think that's been one of the hardest parts of this whole thing, not being able to see people you love. And that breaks my heart for so many people that haven't been able to do that and who have lost loved ones that way. That's probably the worst of it.
So true.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but I thought it was well run, and you also are trying to get the word out to people that might be hesitant about the
Oh,
vaccine. Yes, there's
yeah.
vaccine
Well,
hesitancy.
the reality, everyone, this is the only way out. This is the only
Yeah.
way out. And, we are seeing an uptick in patients right now as I speak.
Hmm.
And sadly, the average age is dropping because our more senior populations are getting the vaccine. So we're seeing that, the 40 to 50, 40 to 60 range. I see the list in the last 24 hours. We had 15 new patients get admitted to the hospital from our community here. That's not okay. And that means that people are still getting infected. The virus is still out there. And, the testing of the variants is picking up, but we believe that the reason we're seeing a little increase is those variants are very contagious. So perhaps
Yes.
you're still maybe following some of your safety protocols, but you're maybe dropping your guard a little bit, and that the virus is that contagious that you're shedding and spreading
That
it
is
around. But
incredible. And one of the things about this virus that I think baffles people is, why does someone get so ill and why does someone else just get very mild symptoms? And they could be, someone who gets really sick could be someone who's a great athlete, or you hear of a marathon runner or someone young. And we just don't really know all that enough about it yet.
we don't. We know that people are more predisposed to difficult course who have comorbidities, but as you mentioned, we do see people who look the perfect, picture of health and fight for their lives. And that's still, I mean, that is the scare. If people would see that, I think they would pause and think a little harder about getting vaccinated, because when you see somebody go through that, which our staff is seeing every day, it's very, it's much clearer to say, look, we have to do this. This is the only way to protect myself and my family, is to get vaccinated.
I am all
And
for it, and
that's
I just
that's the
hope people
truth.
realize that. Yes, I know, and we've just got to get that word out. That's why I wanted to do this with you today, because we need to make sure people know that this is safe. It has been proven that we didn't just come up with this. This type of vaccine has been studied for many more years than just this past year, and people really need to know that it is safe, and we will not be able to get out of it if we don't all get vaccinated. And I think that's such a good point. And listen to the science. The
Mhm.
science does not lie. And you're right. People, if they could see it, maybe would be more convinced to do it, because you do not want to get this disease if you can avoid it. You really don't. And you've seen it firsthand. And I
Yeah.
can't imagine your team and your staff there, what they have to go through every day. Has it been tough on them?
Mm, it's been tough.
Yeah.
It really has. And I'm incredibly proud of them, as this community should be. But I can't, I round in the COVID units. We talk about what they're going through. It's not easy, but most of us who signed up to do healthcare, we do it because that's what we do. So we recognize that, we need to show up, and we need to, take the responsibility. We're trying to, some people really have maxed out and need to, rotate to a different area. We try and get people. I mean, the other struggle we have is, for so long nobody could go anywhere, so people are like, well, I'm not going to take vacation because there's nothing to do and nowhere to go, and I can't be with my family. And trying to get people to get a break from this, because it is exhausting on the front lines. And sadly, people are still dying. People died this week.
Mm,
People are still dying. And a lot of us have been at this a long time, but we've never
yes.
seen this much death and suffering, in a period of time. So
Sure. It's
yeah,
just
but
constant. It
our
keeps on
but we
coming.
we we hold each other up. I was over at the mainland campus today. We hold each other up. The team is very tight knit. They support each other. We have a lot of things going on at AtlantiCare to support, our health and well-being. And but
Well, I
it's
give
been a
any
grind.
doctor, nurse, healthcare worker, I give you so much credit, because I honestly don't know if I could do it. I just don't know if I have that kind of strength. And I just think people who do, thank God that they do, because we need them there for us. But no, I'm a very emotional person, and we're human beings. And you can be trained all you want, but to see that on such a consistent basis is tough. It's very
Well, I
tough
think
to live
that
with it.
not being able to have visitors, and have the family part of it. I mean, I've taken care of lots of people in my career, and, you're a big part of the care team as a nurse, but your
Hmm.
families, if people are going through
Yes.
tough families, and they're there, but they're not physically there. So
Yes.
the staff is the family. So we're taking care of the patient, but we're also the family.
And
And
communicating with the
sadly,
family for
many,
them.
yeah, many of
Hmm.
these patients are with us a period of time. So we really get to know them, and it becomes very personal to the staff.
Absolutely. How can it not? I mean,
Mhm.
we're human beings. So I just want to talk to you a little bit more about the future of healthcare and where it's going. And we, I'm big on wellness. I'm a big proponent of make good choices. This is what I say to my kids every day: make good choices.
Yeah.
And we have to do that when it comes to our healthcare, not just physical health, but also our mental health. And do you feel that we're heading a little bit more towards well care and not so much focused on sick care? I know there has been a shift in that.
Yeah, you've been ahead of your time, Robin, and the movement. I think people, especially, I think we're recognizing more as a society that, how what choices I make do have an effect on how things go for me, on my health journey. And I recognize, especially the disparities that we've seen, with different ethnicities is really
Hmm.
troubling. Some of the challenges that come with those choices and lack of choices is, I think, front and center now. And then I think that try and be as healthy as you possibly can be. It is incredibly important. It's it's almost like your shield. Like if you're not taking good care of yourself when these kinds of things happen, it's like you have less ability to fight. So yes, I do see a shift to more health and wellness, more of a discussion about that. We do a lot at AtlantiCare to create a more healthy environment for our staff. We expect things. We have, we really encourage people to exercise and eat well, and, get the sleep they need and have the mental health support. It's all part of
Yes.
it.
It is all part of it. And the older I get, the more I realize how important it is, the things that we go through, and especially the mental health side of it, because that impacts just about everything else, our physical health and everything else we do, our sleep, as you mentioned. So it's really important that we pay attention to that. And that's the message I try to get out every time I speak to someone. And I know that you try to promote that as well. Atlantic Care is big on that, and that's really, really important. So if we want to hopefully we've convinced someone to get the vaccine today. If
Yeah.
someone is interested in getting it, where can they find out more?
Well, you can always go to our website. We have a ton of information available, but and this week we're posting 31,000 appointments, 31,000. So we did, I think, 10,000 on Tuesday, another 10,000 on Thursday, and then Saturday. And then we're going to stop. We've been doing them, 3 times a week. It's the other, I'm going to look this up. It's vaccination.atlanticcare.org. So you can
Okay.
put that in and you can go right there, and that's where you register. You need to have, a password and your ID, your online ID. And then when we open up for appointments, there's also appointments that are coming up every day. I just want to let everybody know, as what we do is we will not waste anything. And so we will take a look at what's going on. We are seeing more and more people who have scheduled themselves and aren't showing up. And obviously, as we get and grow bigger numbers, we're going to have people. But we will start to, speculate and then make some decisions about opening up additional appointments. And so we open up additional appointments sometimes for that very day and then sometimes for the next day. So,
And the guidelines have changed as well.
yeah, right.
Now
Well, and
it's
there's
younger
definitely more
people.
people that are now. I mean,
Yes.
we started with the casino workers, the whole hospitality industry was approved for met their criteria on Monday. So we're trying to make available, resources to be able to support them. Obviously, we want to get them back to work. We want to have a safe, this is a tourist market, and we
Absolutely.
all, know people who work in the industry. And so we want them to be safe as possible. And we also want, that economy motion to, kind of restart so that we can, have the best of both worlds, hopefully. But the vaccine is key to that. Key to that.
Absolutely. And you doing Pfizer or the other ones as well?
We are Pfizer at the
Hmm.
convention center, the Megasite. I'm told that we may be getting some Johnson and Johnson. We
Hmm.
ended up about 1,200 doses in the last 3 weeks, and then we didn't have any more. But there's a possibility that we may have some more J&J. I mean, we don't have a choice. We take whatever they give
Yes.
us, and but the Megasite has been all Pfizer since we opened.
Well, that's what I got. And it was, again, just amazing how well run it was. So kudos to you, to all your folks that are involved in that. It's a lot. I can't imagine what you're going. You're going to need a nice long vacation after this story.
We all will, and the reality is everybody has suffered. Everybody has lost something, many things. They know people who have passed away, it's just been a tough year for all of us. And,
Yes.
that's why it's so important for me to get this community vaccinated as quickly as possible, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to get back to the life that it's going to be different than it used to be, but to get back to some sense of, what we all enjoy, being with
Yes. We're
each
not
other.
just going to snap our fingers and get back to it again, but gradually, every day we're getting closer and closer. So thank goodness for that. And thank you so much for sharing your time with me today and so much great information. Lori Herndon, President and CEO of AtlantiCare. And thank you for joining me today for Living Well with Robin Stoloff, empowering you to live a healthier life. Hope to see you again next time.